Some show up at Keeneland just to be beautiful, some for the burgoo. Me, it's because the best handicapping challenge on God's green earth is right here in Kentucky. Star horses come from Florida, California, and New York, Arkansas, and Louisiana, all to what undoubtedly is the greatest horse racing melting pot in America.
Into the stretch at Keeneland, and Flight Line just moves right by. Life is good.
Win here and you've done something. Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. That's Keeneland. Now, let's get handicapping. And a pleasant Friday night, everybody. Welcome in. Hope you had a great opening day at Keeneland. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now. This is our second edition of the fall meet for the Keeneland Look Ahead. We're going to look at the Saturday, October 7th card. Fall Star Saturday. It's the biggest day of the fall meet at Keeneland. Arguably, other than Toyota Bluegrass Day in the spring, it's the biggest day of the year for Keeneland Racing. A fabulous card with 5 stakes races on the featured docket. We've got the Grade 1 $1 million Keeneland Turf Mile. We've got the First Lady, where an Italian tries to defend her title. A fabulous lineup of races. The Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity for the 2-year-old colts. We'll go through the entire lineup of races for you on Saturday with our handicapping thoughts, our stats and trends to look for. I will give you a chance to take a look at the handicapper selectors box with the consensus handicappers. Good day today for the handicappers in the box for Kim Nelson. Got off to a really good start early in the card. Tom Leach had a big finish to the program, so I got to pick it up a little bit. Just one winner today on the opening day program, so we're looking for a little bit more success on day 2. We'll get into handicapping all of that in just a moment, but as we do here on the look ahead, we give you a sense of what happened today and how it might affect the racing as we look ahead to the next day's racing. Today, on Friday, we had the opening day card where Inside Speed just collapsed almost throughout the card. There was a Wesley Ward first-time starter from the rail that won on the front end. Other than that, almost every horse on the main track was coming wide on the outside. Times were slow, 6 furlongs, 1:11 and change. Almost every division that we saw throughout the card slower than you would expect for that level of horse at Keeneland over the years. And then we got to the featured sprint race, the Phoenix Stakes, and it was Hoist the Gold running a 109.13 on the tote. I mean, on the timer. Just a phenomenal time when you consider what else was going on through the day. Did the track get a little bit faster later in the day? I'm not so sure. Or do we just have a horse who was superior to the others on the card? That could be the case. It was a big effort by Hoist the Gold that's going to send the Dallas Stewart trainee to the Breeders' Cup Sprint now. Also today, we saw John Velazquez, the Hall of Fame jockey, win 3 on the card. So a big day for John Velazquez. He won for Wesley Ward, Vicky Oliver, and then Dallas Stewart winning on that horse, Hoist the Gold in the Phoenix Stakes. Other stakes winners on the card, we saw Buku win from Off the Pace in the Philly race, the Jessamine Stakes, Phillies on the turf. That 2-year-old Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies turf win and you're in will send that runner out to California. Buku ran a big race for Phil Bauer from Off the Pace. I've got to caution, though, I have seen this race, the Jessamine, produce just eye-popping performances over the years, and I keep getting pulled into those horses in the Breeders' Cup, and it's just not carrying over. Horses, I don't know why, but they might run a fantastic race in the Jessamine, but they're just not following it up in the Breeders' Cup. So we'll see how Buku trains up to the Breeders' Cup, who else shows up there. But what a visually sharp performance today from Off the Pace and then winning by daylight, drawing off a big effort by Buku. And then in the featured race, the Alcibiades Stakes, again, the Inside Speed just didn't hold. Bright Work was up near the lead, faded in the stretch. There was some question whether or not she kind of had a miler's pedigree, and she did not sustain and run on, and the Alcibiades ended up finishing off the board. Vivi's Dream was right there with a chance to win, but it was the outside rally by Candy, the Candy Ride filly, who just swept by all of them and went on to victory. She'll head out to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies as one of the ones to watch. Big week in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies ranks, obviously, because we had the Alcibiades today. Then they're going to run the Frazette and also the Chandelier tomorrow in New York and California, respectively. So who's going to take on Tamara, the outstanding Del Mar debutante winner who's just training up to the Breeders' Cup for Richard Mandela? We know that Candide would be one of those now in contention after her win today in the Darley Alcibiades. So that's a little bit of a wrap on what happened today. Now, why did we see the conditions that we did? Are we going to assume that those rally-wide closers on the main track are going to be effective again on Saturday? Track maintenance crews see what happens as well as handicappers, and I would be shocked if they don't tighten up the track a little bit. There was supposed to be a lot more moisture in Lexington between Thursday and into Friday morning than there turned out to be. So there may not have been as much water in the track that we thought there would be because they expected Mother Nature to take part in that. That left for kind of a loose cuppy racetrack. If you ever hear the term cuppy, that means a loose track that kind of just gives way underneath the horses. Think about it when you run on the loose sand in the beach, right? It just gives way underneath you. That becomes more tiring than more of a firm packed, water based sand. And so those horses have to struggle to get over a little bit more. And I think that's why the speed backed up a little bit. Almost in every race we saw today, the front running horses just kind of gave way, and not that it's any easier for the closers, but the front running horses typically don't have the stamina. That's why they go to the front. And when they start to get tired, they really get tired. And then those horses from the back of the pack may not be running faster at the end. It just looks like they're running faster, but they're able to sustain their endurance a little bit longer. And it's more of a sustained rally than any time on the dirt. We rarely see a fraction on the dirt where the last quarter's faster than the first quarter. That almost never happens in a dirt race. It's just those horses from the back of the pack don't get tired as rapidly, and they sustain their speed better than the horses up in the front. So they got tired today on the front end. I assume we're going to see faster times tomorrow on Saturday. I think the track will be tightened up. Cooler temperatures are expected, though, so there's a little worry. You don't want to put too much water into a track if temperatures are going to get down into the upper 30s overnight. I think 39 is what I saw for potential low, so they won't want to put too much water into the track overnight, but I wouldn't be surprised pre-race if we don't see that track watered a little bit more. It should be tighter. It should favor more so speed than what we saw today. And Keeneland's usually a speed track, right? We all know that on the main track. Almost all the statistical profiles tell us that almost any distance, you want to be pretty close to the pace. That wasn't the case today. That's part of the reason why I took a bad day today in the handicapping world, because I didn't assume we were going to have that kind of track condition. But that's part of what you get when you handicap in advance. And what we do here on the look ahead is try to give you the best sense of what to look for tomorrow. Now, will you have an indication that the track's a little quicker tomorrow? Check the workout tab, right? When Equibase posts the workouts in the morning for Saturday, see how fast they go. Maybe compare that to the workout tab that we saw on Friday, or the average times for, half mile works faster on Saturday than what we saw on Friday. That might give you a sense that the track's playing a little bit quicker. But the best thing you could do is probably tiptoe a little bit early on the card and then dive in later with a little more confidence as you see in a race or two how the main track is playing. If you want to walk in with any assumptions, I guess you could look at the rally-wide closers to start, because that's what we saw today. But my gut tells me we're going to see a change in that, the way the track plays on Saturday. Okay, here's the big picture view of this 11 race card. Again, a big program, 5 stakes races. Here's how it lines up. We've got the early pick 5 starting in race number 1. This is how you read the big picture. If you're new to the program, thank you so much. Hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a repost, a retweet, if you will, if you're on Twitter/X. Help grow the audience here for the Keeneland Look Ahead. If you're watching for the first time tonight, this gives us a look at all 11 races on the card and where the wagers start that we want to plan our betting strategy throughout the day. The early pick 4 starts in the second race as normal. Pick 6 will be races 5 through 10. It's not the final 6 races on the card, because it's going to end with the 10th race, the featured Keeneland Turf Mile. So pick 6, not the final 6 on the card. If you want to play the pick 6, starts in race number 5. 5 through 10 will be the pick 6 races on Saturday. That's a little different than what we're used to seeing when it's typically the final 6 races on the card. No carryover in the pick 6. I'll mention that right now. 1 ticket hit the pick 6. A big payoff there. I think for $1, it was over $50,000, $100,000, $2 payoff. What was published in the chart. Stakes action begins in race number 6, as well as an all stakes pick 5. The turf pick 3 will be races 6, 8, and 10. You see that denoted in green. So the $3 Keeneland Turf pick 3 will be races 6, 8, and 10, which are our stakes races. All 3 of those races are stakes races in the turf pick 3. Race number 7 is another stakes race that starts a pick 4, an all stakes pick 4 on races 7 through 10. And you see in purple the BC pick 6. That's the Breeders' Cup Challenge pick 6. There are 6 races in a pick 6 offered nationally between Keeneland and Santa Anita. Those races are the Thoroughbred Club of America, the Turf Mile, and the Breeders' Futurity. Those 3 races from from Keeneland. So it's a TCA, the Breeders' Futurity, and the Turf Mile. And then the 3 races as part of that pick 6 from Southern California at Santa Anita will be the American Pharoah Stakes, the Chandelier Stakes, and the Rodeo Drive. So be sure to check that out. Play the Breeders' Cup Challenge Pick 6, $1 minimum wager on that as far as the denominations go. 8th race on the card will start a final pick 4 on races 8, 9, 10, and 11. So there are 2 late pick 4s, if you will. Race 7 will be an all-stakes pick 4, 7 through 10. And then race 8 will take us through a pick 4 that concludes through the card. 9th and 10th also in stakes action. That 10th race, of course, the $1 million Keeneland Turf Mile feature race will wrap up the Turf Pick 3. I've got 3 best bets on the card coming up for Saturday. We're looking at those in races 4, 6, and 10. I'll tell you the specifics about those as we get into the program. We'd like for you to follow us on Substack, where you can get email information sent directly to your email inbox. Go to Substack, and Jeremy Plonk is the login name for me there at Substack, all one word, no spaces. JeremyPlonk.substack.com, and you can sign up free. Just click on the Substack subscribe. It's no charge. Free handicapping information sent to you. I'll update you with my blogs, my picks, things like that throughout the course of the Keeneland meet and during the course of the racing year. So please check that out on Substack, and be sure to check out our Keeneland Look Ahead podcast each and every night. 8:30 Eastern, the live stream premieres before the next day's racing. You can watch it on YouTube at Keeneland Official, on X/Twitter at Keeneland Racing. You can also follow it on Bet Keeneland on X, and you can also follow it at Horseplayer Now, which is my handle on Twitter. So be sure to follow there on Twitter/X at Horseplayer Now. Okay, let's get into handicapping this 11 race card for you on Saturday. We will take you through the Keeneland Handicapper Selectors Box, where again, Scott Hazelton, Tom Leach, myself, Kaiten Bradar, the new face in town. It's hard to call Kaiten a new face in town, but she's the new simulcast co-host with Gabby Gaudette on maternity leave this meet. So best of luck to Gabby. If you were here last night, you know that. But if you're joining the show for the first time and tuning into Keeneland tomorrow for the first time, you'll get Kaiten's smiling face and outstanding handicapping analysis. Kim Nelson, also part of the Keeneland Handicappers Box. Again, she got up to a great start. Kim Nelson hit the daily double right off the bat. It's hard to hit winners on opening day when everything's fresh and new, and she just took the first 2 and knocked them right out of the park. Here are the selections we have for you as we go through each and every one of these 11 races now over the next 30 minutes or so. In race number 1, this is a race where there's a little bit of division amongst the handicappers, right? I mean, you've got 5 handicappers with 4 different horses with top picks in here. A la carte, the bookend top picks for Scott and Kim. I've got Penny's Prospect on top, Master of Arms for Kaiten, Captain Jack for Tom. So this is a non-winners of 2 $40,000 claiming race. And look, this is kind of like one of the bottom levels that we're going to see at Keeneland, a claiming non-winners of 2 lifetime. They all have at least just 1 career victory. The horses from Indiana Grand, the former Indiana Grand, now known as Horseshoe Indianapolis, have done really well in these spots, the non-winners of 2 lifetime races at Keeneland over the years. The Churchill horses tend to dominate with volume, and they've get the most victories by far. But the Horseshoe Indianapolis horses offer really good betting value. They're averaging about a 10-to-1 return when they win in these non-winners of 2 lifetime spots. That's why I ended up going in here with the horse from Horseshoe Indianapolis, that being Penny's Prospect. Showed some speed last time and just got nipped at the wire going 6 furlongs. The distance 6.5 here. Typically, I'm looking for speed in 6, 6.5, 7 furlong sprint races at Keeneland. 7, not as much as the 6 and 6.5 for sure, but I would expect if the track tightens back up that we can get some early speed, and Penny's Prospect should be forwardly placed throughout in here. You don't want to be coming too far off the pace in a claiming race going 6.5 furlongs. There's not a ton of early speed in this race either, so that means the pace should be softish up front. I like Penny's Prospect to break well under Alex Achard and have a chance to go, if not wire to wire, maybe sit second early and be forwardly placed throughout. So that's going to be my pick, Penny's Prospect. I like that Horseshoe Indianapolis angle here at this class level, and I like a horse with a little bit of speed. But I'm not going to go diving in crazy here on horses with early speed until it proves to me that they are going to be effective. What I saw today, you wouldn't want the running style that Penny's Prospect has. So let's see how it plays out. Now, does that mean you just completely jump off and bet some other horse? No, I don't think you want to change your strategy up just based on what you saw on a previous day's assumed track bias, track trends. Because again, those conditions can change based on track maintenance, weather, those sort of things like that. But would you scale your bet back? Let's say you're normally a $20 better. If you were going to bet 20 to win on Penny's prospect in this race, maybe you bet 10 or 12 now instead of 20 because you want to just see, you want to be convinced first whether or not the track can hold up and not be too stamina demanding on a front running type horse like that. Let's go to the second race on the card. And again, as we go to the big picture here, we want to remind you race number 2 is going to kick off the early pick 4. Early pick 5 opens in the first race. Early pick 4 starts in race number 2. I've got a first-time starter in here. When we talk 2-year-old maiden specials here at Keeneland in the fall, you're usually looking for horses from the Churchill Downs meet or horses that are first-time starters. They dominate the victories. We saw first-timers have good success in these races on opening day Friday. I'm going with the first-time starter, Gallant Mischief, a 2-year-old colt by Into Mischief, $480,000 Keeneland November purchase back as a weanling 2 years, or as a yearling 2 years ago. And 2 years ago would have been a weaning, right? The Keeneland November weanling sale. So $480,000, a lot to spend for an Into Mischief at that age. Tracy Farmer picked him up and brings this one to the races for the first time with Mark Cassey as the trainer. Bullet workouts at Ellis Park throughout the summer. This looks like a horse who probably could have debuted a while back, but they decided to wait for Keeneland. Why? It's a $100,000 purse in the maiden special weight company at Keeneland. They run for about $70,000 at Ellis Park. So it means something to win a race at Keeneland, and it means more in the pocketbook to win the maiden races here than some of the other circuits around Kentucky. So Gallant Mischief going to be my top pick. Also, Kim and Scott go in that direction. Kim, a very good pedigree handicapper, so I'm interested that she is on Gallant Mischief in here. The other one who's really got to be considered, Caton's top pick, Linzer in here, is my second choice. This horse showed a lot of speed in the first 2 career starts. Now the blinkers come off. I'm curious to see what Linzer has after running at Delaware and Colonial Downs. We did see some horses from these circuits that you wouldn't expect necessarily to be winning at Keeneland right off the bat have some success opening day. So good horses can come from anywhere. Linzer, a Godolphin homebred by Street Scent out of Macaroon, a Tappet mare for Mike Stidham. This is not an off-Broadway pedigree and an off-Broadway set of connections. But the 2 races at Delaware and Colonial aren't the mainstream that we're used to seeing with horses that come in are successful here. But the career debut second at Delaware Park was behind Nutella Fella. If that name sounds a little familiar, Nutella Fella, of course, came back and upset the Grade 1 Hopeful Stakes in the second career start. And so some good company lines for Linzer. I think you've got to respect that one. Again, speed from the inside. They take the blinkers off, so maybe not as much speed as shown in the first 2 starts. We'll see what jockey Joel Rosario does aboard Linzer in that spot. But I like Gallant Mischief. Linzer, the other one to watch in here for me and the crew. Let's go to the third race on the card coming up on this Saturday program. And here's one where we've got a little bit of agreement. 3 of us taking 3 pokes on top and 2 taking take time to dream. Got the full house, right? I mean, trip 6s and a pair of 4s. The full house here in the handicapper selectors box. 3 pokes. The 6 is my top pick along with Tom and Scott. So the guys are all on the same one. The gals team up with Take Time to Dream. Do with that what you may if you're feeling the mojo there with whom you want to back. But 3 pokes was my top choice in here. This is a John Ortiz trainee, a 3-year-old filly by Jimmy Creed. Didn't show a lot of early speed in the debut on turf, but Jimmy Creed is a sire that's on my list of sires, horses I'm looking for. I keep this handy with me when I handicap. These are my Keeneland turf sires, my Keeneland dirt sires on a piece of paper. So I'm going through and I'm looking at the beginning of the meet. Who's got good numbers with horses on the dirt? Who's got good numbers with horses on the turf? Because Keeneland can be a horse-for-course track when not many of these horses have experience running over it. 3 pokes is by Jimmy Creed, and Jimmy Creed, an outstanding sire percentage-wise of horses on the main track here at Keeneland. So a good debut at Churchill on the turf sprinting. 7 furlongs should suit very well out of a Street Sense mare. I love the Street Senses and pedigree when they go 7/8 of a mile, 1 turn mile. They seem to really fit well. So I like 3 pokes on pedigree and a decent debut effort. The horse for me in race number 3. Now, these are older maiden special weights. We talked about with the 2-year-old maiden specials here at Keeneland, where you're looking for Churchill horses and first-time starters. When you're talking about the older maiden special weight races, which we have here, ages 3 and up, first-time starters rarely win these races. We have 51 older maiden special weights in dirt races in the fall at Keeneland in our database since 2014, since we went back to the dirt. Out of those 51 races, 3 first-time starters have won. So we're not looking for the first-time starters in this particular spot. The Churchill Downs horses do very well, but there's really not a lot of Churchill horses in this race to try to love and embrace. Dream on Stormy does come off a race at Churchill, but I'm going to take the horse out of the turf race. 3 Polks also out of that Churchill turf situation. Devil Blue Dress is the good-looking 2-year-old in here, or the good-looking first-time starter. They're all 3-year-olds and up. I apologize. But this filly by Into Mischief is working really fast in the morning for trainer Dale Romans. Romans rarely wins with a first-time starter, so that's not necessarily a great angle. And like I said, only 3 of the 51 races for older horses on the dirt here in maiden specials have been won by first-time starters, 3 out of the 51. So Devil Blue Dress, I'm hoping gets bet hard. I hope the horse runs well, but I hope it takes a lot of money and isn't up to the test, because 3 out of 51 is the kind of percentage that I will back going the other direction. And so I'll go with a horse with an experience, and for me, that is 3 Polks. As for Time to Dream, Take Time to Dream, that's the top pick in here for Caton and Kim. This one comes off 2 races in New York for trainer Robert Falcone Jr. Falcone, the very high percentage trainer on the NYRA circuit. A couple 4th place finishes for that one in open company maiden special weight races. Should fit very well in this particular spot. And it does not look like a strong maiden special. And again, when you're talking 3-year-olds and up in the month of October, still being maidens, these are horses that A, either had problems, or B, haven't turned out to be very successful. So good horses should have graduated by now. Healthy horses should have graduated by now. So if they're in this spot, they've had some problems either with talent or they had some problems with health. I like the fact that 3 Polks has only had the 1 career start at this point, because that tells me it was about health more than talent. And we'll see if second time out, the Jimmy Creed filly 3 Polks can get the victory in race number 3. Let's go now to the 4th race on the card and give you a look back at the Keeneland big picture. Again, races 3 and 4 will not start any of the new multi-race wagers on the program. 4th race on the card will become our first turf race of the program, and it's going to become one of my first key plays of the day. I've got Turf Confidence in Motion. Well, there's kind of a double entendre there. Turf Confidence in Motion is this. Graham Motion. He's the leading trainer of turf allowance route winners in Keeneland in our 17-year history of our database. He's got 25 such wins. He's got Wallachia in here in a turf route allowance race, drawn on the rail with some tactical speed, so should really be able to take advantage of being on the inside. And this is the horse who's already won over the course back in the April 22 meet. So Wallachia, the horse that I have confidence in Graham Motion, and my confidence is also in motion in this race because it's a turf race. I talked about the track conditions on opening day. The way I handicap and I won speed on the main track was not successful at all on opening day. I don't know how the track's going to play early in the card. Races 1, 2, and 3 are all on the main track. So for me, the first time I walk into this card with some confidence is race number 4, because it's a turf race, and I just feel like, okay, the turf's going to be more even than the main track in my mind. I might not be right about that. And after a race or 2, I might be convinced on the main track that I've got it dialed back in now. I think we'll know after 1 race. If race number 1 goes in a fast time, a time that we would expect to run for that kind of quality of horse and over the right time, then we'll know that the track is kind of fast and not that cuppy, loose, tiring track that we saw on Friday. But by race 4, when I'm looking ahead and I'm trying to plan my day out, this is the first time I got the confidence in motion. So we are going with Graham Motion and Wallachia in race number 4, one of my key plays early in the program. Let's look at the other handicappers in race number 4, see where they're at. Saffron Moon, also a horse who's got a lot of attention in here. Wallachia for Tom and I. Saffron Moon, the top pick, my second choice, but the top pick for Scott, Caton, and Kim. So basically, we're looking at a 2-horse race, according to the public handicappers. The Chad Brown trained Saffron Moon, the Graham Motion trained Wallachia. If that sounds like common practice in a turf race at Keeneland to look at Graham Motion and Chad Brown trainees, you could do a lot worse. These horses are in good form, well drawn, a lot to like about both. I think the race does come down to Wallachia, Saffron Moon. Race number 4 is part of the early pick 4, the early pick 5. This is a 1 or 2 deep situation. I wouldn't go too deep. I would go ahead and use the single here because I really like Wallachia in this particular spot. But if you went just too deep in here and included Saffron Moon, you would get no argument from me with the way the rest of the ticket may play out for you. As for me, look, if you're playing early pick 4s and pick 5s, that means you're going to have to wonder how the main track's going to play in the first couple of races. So I'm not going to get involved in the early pick 5 and the early pick 4 because pick 5 starts in race number 1. I've got 3 dirt races in a row. I don't know how the track's going to be and if my picks are going to kind of hold up. And then in race number 2, we really don't have a chance to see too much yet other than race number 1. We also got a 2-year-old or a first-time starter mixed in there with a 2-year-old race as well, a maiden race. So I'm going to stay away from the early pick 5 and the early pick 4. We've got that extra late pick 4 on the card today, so maybe we transfer out that way with some of our budget. The other thing is we have that Breeders' Cup Challenge pick 6, so we can channel some of our budget that we would normally play in your early pick 4 and early pick 5 into that Breeders' Cup Challenge pick 6, where we feel a lot more confident, right? We're looking at 6 Breeders' Cup prep races there, and that might be something where the confidence, which you always want to back, you want to back your confidence, could be higher for you in those races. They certainly are for me than they are the first 3 on the card. But my first key play of the day comes up in race number 4. It's going to be down on the inside there with Wallachia. 5th race on the card starts the pick 6. Again, races 5 through 10, the pick 6 races on this program. Not the final 6 on the card, but races 5 through 10 will be the pick 6. We're going to start off here with Valentine Candy as the top choice. This is a Justify colt. Justify had a winner today on the opening day program. This horse won the debut wire-to-wire at Saratoga for Steve Asmussen. $250,000 son of Justify out of a Candy Ride mare. We know how good the Candy Rides are over the course here at Keeneland. So good pedigree to like it here at Keeneland. First time off those races at Saratoga. And this should be a good spot in an entry-level allowance company with these 2-year-olds. I would like to see the form from Saratoga be backed up in here. Valentine Candy from Saratoga. Hall also from Saratoga, a horse you want to keep your eye on here. In between, Alder is one who's a top pick for Tom and Caton. My second choice in here. Alder ran a good race for Brad Cox, second time out. Draw a line through the first race when declared a non-starter. Just basically treat this horse like he's 1-for-1 lifetime. The hard-spun colt won a debut by 6 lengths at Ellis Park, going just 5/8 of a mile. Should be more speedy maybe in this spot than in the career debut because you're down to the inside. It's 6 furlongs this time, but there's a lot of speed on the inside. The 1 Normandy Hero, the 2 Baxley. These horses have early speed. Normandy Hero has been on top in all 3 career races. That's not coincidence. Then you also have a horse like Baxley for trainer Larry Ravelli, who went wire to wire in the career debut, going 5/8 at Hawthorne. If you've watched Larry Ravelli's horses over the years, you know they're all early speed. They're all trained to get up and go out of the gate. So the 1 and the 2 are going to go flying out of there. How will Alder handle that with the speed to the inside? We're going to find out. I think Valentine Candy coming out of the 7/8 mile of the Hopeful will help that horse relax a little bit to the outside, probably not barreling out of there. I'm on Valentine Candy. The late running Hall would be effective from the outside. I think this is one where you want to look at a couple different horses in here. I think it's a 3-deep situation. I think if you have the 4, the 3, and the 9, you have them covered pretty good in here. Maybe the 2 Baxley, the one you want to consider for Ravelli in there if you want another, but there's some speed in here to go with the 2 Baxley. So I would try to get by 3 deep if you're looking at the multi-race wagers, race number 5. And again, that starts the pick 6. To the 6th race we go next here in the back half of the program. Again, 11 races on Saturday. The first of our 5 consecutive stakes races starts here in race number 6. It's the Woodford Stakes. It's my second key play of the day. You know that in these big field turf sprint races over the years, we've made a lot of money and we made a lot of hay talking about how posts 3, 4, and 5 have a statistical advantage when we get a full field turf sprint. 1 and 2 don't score that often because it's tough to get out of there and get the good trip unless you just go barreling to the front. And a lot of key turf sprints, especially in big fields at Keeneland, aren't won on the front end. So that makes the 1 and 2 holes you're really disadvantaged. The outside post positions, of course, lose ground with a short run into the first turn. So it's really a prime spot to be in post 3, 4, and 5. And in the Woodford Stakes, 2 of the horses in those 3, what I call power posts, have a lot to like about him. You know, the number 4 Eyewitness is Wesley Ward. He's won this race 3 times, including the last 2 years with Golden Pal. He won it with No Nay Never back in 2014, winning the Woodford. He and Jose Ortiz team up with this one. Eyewitness really well drawn in post number 4. Ward's got, 35, 40 more wins. I think it was 45 more wins in Keeneland turf sprints than any other trainer. We talked about that number last night. Just a dominant turf sprint trainer at Keeneland. So you got to like the 4 Eyewitness. And then the 5 is really well drawn. Joel Rosario rides. Nobody rides turf sprints better statistically or to the eye than Joel Rosario at Keeneland. He's just a master finishing and timing the move perfectly. Arzak in the 5-hole for trainer Mike Trombetta is coming off a career best race, a win at 17-1 in Allowance Company at Saratoga, ready to make the step back up into Turf Sprint Stakes Company. This is a horse who ran in the Grade 2 Belmont Turf Sprint, in the Kentucky Downs Turf Sprint. He's better now than he was when he was in those stakes in the past. And I love the pairing with Rosario, and I love the post because the speed on the inside is going to have to go. And out of the 5-hole, you can just kind of draft, save a little room, and then try to come through around tiring horses on the inside. Should be able to work out a good trip under a great turf sprint closing rider in Joel Rosario. So the 4 Eyewitness, the 5 Arzak, that's where I'm at in race number 5, and that's why it's one of my key plays of the day. Ward and Rosario from Power Post, the best turf sprint trainer, the best turf sprint jockey, and the best post positions teaming up. I'm going to be all over the 4 and 5 in any combination that I can make it work for me in race number 6, that being the Woodford Stakes. Look around the other handicapper selectors box, and might we get a little bit of a price on our plays here with Arzak and Eyewitness? I think so. None of the other handicappers have the 4 or the 5 in their top 3. This is why I really enjoy this play, because I've got a lot going for me. And it's not a situation where you go, well, you got Ward and Rosario. Those are going to get bet. Look at the other options in this race. You also have Wesley Ward with Coffee Maker. So maybe they go for the other Ward, the local stakes winner in here, but not drawn as well. You got Living the Dream. You got Bad Beat Brian. You got Olympic Runner. Also top picks in here by our series of handicappers. Bad Beat Brian's fast. He's good. He ran second, beaten ahead in the Shakertown. He got beat 2 lengths in this race last year, went 4th, the Golden Pow. But he's going to be speed from the inside, and he's going to be pressed hard. You've got the European in here, Living the Dream, also from Post 2. Could be a tough trip for that one from the inside if the field starts to come down on the hedge on him and make things a little bit tight. Coffee Maker from the outside is going to be speed, going to be tough in here for trainer Wesley Ward and Luis Saez. Saez off to a good start at the meet. The outside runner, Beer Can Man, is a horse who comes in from Delmar off a 3rd in the Green Flash. We saw Stubbins come here from the West Coast back in 2019 to win this race, and really the only Californian that we've seen had any success in the 17-year history of our database. So we will see if Beer Can Man from the outside from California can make a run here in the Woodford Stakes. But I love the 4. I love the 5 in here. Arzak Eyewitness. Let's try to get by 2 deep in all the multi-race wagers, including, as we see in race number 6, the pick 5, the all stakes pick 5, and the Keeneland Turf pick 3. I'm just using 2 horses in a race that might be a spread for others. If I can get one of the 2 power posts in at a nice fair number, we're off to a great start in all those multi-race wagers. The Breeders' Cup Challenge Pick 6 begins in race number 7. It's next up for us, and it'll be the Thoroughbred Club of America Stakes, the TCA, if you will. This is a prep for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and some years we have just an absolute standout in this race, a Goodnight Olive, a runner like that. The TCA this year, I don't think has the standout performer who's just 2 to 5 on the tote board. Wicked Halo was that kind of price last time out in the Open Mind Stakes at Churchill Downs, but she didn't run much at all. In fact, 2 of the fillies that she ran against in that spot are back here in the rematch. So does Wicked Halo go favorite again? Does the public forgive that last performance? Do they go to Ugiri, who won that race? Maybe they will. I don't know, but I'm going with Fire on Time in this race because there's not much speed in the TCA. Last time out in the Open Mind at Churchill, it was Fire on Time for Dale Romans, who got the lead clear and got run down by Ugiri. But we know Fire on Time's got a win over the track here at Keeneland. Ugiri's only race here at Keeneland was in the Madison last year and got beat 17 lengths in there behind Goodnight Olive, so in the spring. So I don't know if Ugiri likes Keeneland or not. I do know that Fire on Time likes to make the lead. I know there's not a lot of speed in here, so we're going to try to eliminate variables. Let's go back and take a look at that race in the Open Mind Stakes where Wicked Halo just didn't fire her shot, and it was Ugiri able to run down Fire on Time.
On time at the quarter pole in front by 2. Ugiri comes through toward the inside. More Than Vows fights on. Wicked Halo's 4th. 4th with 1 furlong to go. Fire on Time in front by 2. Here's Ugiri to the attack. Fire on Time half-length lead. Ugiri's come off the rail and goes right on by. Ugiri overcomes a troubled start to score by 3. Fire on Time 2nd. Wicked Halo checks in third.
Back at the same venue, and I have a hard time trying to go against you, Geary, against Fire on Time, but I think the change in venue to Keeneland could be the difference. We know one horse has a victory over the track. The other struggled over it against much harder company. But I am going with Fire on Time over Wicked Halo and Happy Soul. I'm going to try to toss you, Geary. I have respect for the horse at other venues, but here at Keeneland, again, beaten more than a dozen lengths in the one appearance. I'm going to try to throw out the 6 Ugiri and get it home with Fire on Time. I will also use Wicked Halo. I will go too deep in the multi-race wagers in race number 7. You see Wicked Halo picked on top by Kim and also by Tom Leach. Ugiri picked on top by Caton and Scott. I will not be shocked if Ugiri wins the race. I just think you're looking at a horse who's going to be an underlay price off of the impressive win at Churchill, and you've got to prove it to me at Keeneland this time around. One filly who has to prove nothing at Keeneland is In Italian. She's up next in race number 7 or race number 8, and she's going to be the speed and the horse to beat in the First Lady Stakes, a race that she won last year in wire-to-wire fashion before almost wiring the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. That was at a mile and 3/16 last year in the Filly and Mare Turf, and it was at Keeneland. So this was a race from a mile to a mile and 3/16 where In Italian was able to stretch out and stay at a home track for her. Now she's got to go to the West Coast of California. It's a mile and a quarter this year for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, so they've got to go farther. You would almost think that they're going to run In Italian in the Breeders' Cup Mile and shorten her back this year. So this could be a prep for the Breeders' Cup Mile for In Italian in this spot. She's got a filly, though, in her stable that she's got to fend off again, because last time out at Saratoga, it was White Beam, who's the 2-horse here on Saturday, who ran her down in the wire with no real visible excuses. I think maybe White Beam can get the best of her again. Caravaggio, the sire of White Beam, has not had a lot of starters at Keeneland. I think 6 of them, 3 of them have been in the winner's circle. I think White Beam's going to love the track here at Keeneland over the turf course for Chad Brown. Brown has won this race the last 5 years. He stands a great chance of winning the First Lady again because, again, not only does he have White Beam in Italian, he also has Gina Romantica coming off a second-place finish in the Beverly D and a winner last year in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup here at Keeneland from the rail. So Chad Brown's got 3 of the runners in this year's First Lady Stakes. I think he's got him surrounded. I would go too deep in the multi-race wagers, though. I'm not in on Gina Romantica in this spot. I think it's In Italian on the lead, White Beam the runner down, and that's the way I see this year's race because I think there's going to be one other pace player in here. This name is okay. He's got some early speed in here, and Evie Jets on the outside also has some early speed. So while In Italian's had the ability to make an easy lead in several of her races and just simply run the rest of the horses off the ground when they hit the top of the stretch, she's going to have some company from what we might deem as cheap speed. I mean, nothing wrong with the horses who are going to go with her early in this race, but they're not the same level of class she is. So cheap speed, 2 of them going out and pressing In Italian could make things tough for her. And I think that gives the edge to White Beam. Do you want to go too deep? Do you want to single in this particular spot? As we look across the handicapper selectors box, it might be a too deep situation because Scott's got In Italian over White Beam. Tom's got White Beam over In Italian. I agree with Tom. Caton's got In Italian over White Beam, and Kim has In Italian over White Beam. Everybody sees the race the exact same way. In Italian, White Beam, last time they were a nose apart in the Diana at Saratoga over a mile and an eighth. Maybe the mile distance helps the cause a bit here for In Italian in the rematch. But then again, maybe the pace scenario with more cheap speed in the race favors White Beam. If you go too deep in this race, you're going to be like a lot of other people, right? Most people are going to go too deep on the ticket. I'm going to recommend that you single, and I'm going to go with White Beam in this particular spot. I just thought that there was no excuse last time for In Italian not to be able to hold her off. I know it was a mile and an eighth, but I'm going for White Beam. Flavian Pratt riding really well on the turf all year long and really throughout his career here in the U.S. I'm taking White Beam, and I'm saying that's the single for me in the First Lady when you're playing the multi-race wagers. Let's go next on the program from the First Lady, which is part of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 and race number 8. To the 9th race on the card. The 9th race is the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity. These are Breeders' Cup Juvenile hopefuls, and you say, well, can you win this race and go on to take the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? You don't have to go back very far to find the last one who did it. Remember last year, Forte won this race in really a tough stretch run with Loggins. It ended up knocking Loggins out, and he never became the 3-year-old that some people hoped that he might become. He was just making his second career start, tried to do too much too soon, and got into a real tussle with Forte. Their battle throughout the entire entire stretch, one of the races of the meet last year at Keeneland in the Breeders' Futurity. Of course, Forte then went on a couple weeks later to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile over the track here at Keeneland. Horses who want to double down this year in the Breeders' Futurity and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile are going to have a tougher task, though, because they've got to travel west and go to Santa Anita for this year's main event. So this prep race is always important towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but this year it will definitely be a tougher test than being the local prep venue that we had when the Breeders' Cup was hosted at Santa Anita last year. Now, there's a horse in this race named Locked, who was absolutely dominant at Saratoga in the second career start. Not backed on the board in the career debut at 12-1 for Todd Pletcher, but this $425,000 son of Gunrunner ran decent in the debut, finishing up, and then everybody was all in the mile allowance rate or mile maiden special weight race at 3-5 in the second career start. Locke looks like he could be one of the favorites for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with another big performance. Here's how he looked at the Spa in his big win.
In third, followed by Resilience there at the top of the stretch. Locked by 4. Drum roll, please. Running a good race, but still 4 lengths behind Locked, who's just hand-ridden, coaxed along, and it's lights out. Locked. And Jose Ortiz pouring it on, running aggressively through the stretch to win by 7 easy lengths. Drum roll, please.
So are they going to be able to beat Locked from an outside post position in here? He's got his work cut out for him a little bit. We've seen some horses do well from that outside post in these races in the Breeders' Futurity in the past. I wouldn't say it's a disqualifier on putting the horse on top, but he's going to be a very short price in here. Do you want to take a short price with a horse who's not been over the track at Keeneland in the past, either in the morning or in the afternoon? Certainly with a 2-year-old, you're going to get that. These horses haven't been over the track at Keeneland for all intents and purposes. But would you take a short price or would you try to get a horse at a better price under that same scenario? They all have the same challenge faced ahead of them. I'm going to try to beat Locked. Maybe I'm being a little bullheaded in here. Certainly would use this horse. I think you want to go 4 deep in your multi-race wagers. Timberlake, Awesome Road, the 2 horses for Brad Cox, and Locked, obviously. Those are 3 of the main favorites in this race, and I think you have to respect all 3 of them. I'm also going to use a horse named Generous Tipper for Kenny McPeak. McPeak won this race a couple years ago with Rattle and Roll, and horses from off the pace have had some good success in this race. And horses that are rallying from 3.5, 4, 5, 6 lengths off the pace have done really well in recent years. Since we've gone back to dirt the last 9 years, the average winner of this race has been 3.5 lengths off the lead in the Breeders' Futurity. So we've seen speed not hold in this race historically, and closers have a chance to run them down, just like we did last year, right? Forte was able to rally from off the pace and beat the front-running Logan and get him to the wire. I'm going to see if one of the speed horses in here comes back to the field, the main speed horses, and we can get a closer. I'm going to go with Generous Tipper. This horse was near the pace last time, but previous races were off the pace. 47 flat was a slow time at Ellis Park for the half mile, so that horse was up near the front because there just wasn't other speed in the race. No way in the world against this group is Generous Tipper going to be near the front. I think Brian Hernandez Jr. will try to bring this one from off the pace. I'm taking an upset chance with Generous Tipper, but again, I would use Timberlake, Awesome Road, and Locked in a 4-deep situation for me. And if you look across the way, Awesome Road picked on top, Locked picked second by a lot of folks. The Wine Steward, one that I didn't have in my picks. This is a horse who won the Bashford Manor. He's 3 for 3. Also won the Funny Side against New York Breds last time for trainer Mike Maker. I'm a little worried about this one, though. Maybe in the sprints. You've got 3 sprints already on the resume before stretching out beyond 6 furlongs. 5, 6, and 6 furlongs. If you look at the trends of this race, 9 times back on dirt since we've been back to the dirt in 2014 for the Breeders' Futurity. Horses have won this race 7 of 9 times when they prepped at 7 furlongs or longer. Only 2 of the 9 wins by horses trying to stretch out from those 5 and 6 furlong kind of sprints. So I'm going to take a stand against the Wine Steward for that. That's another reason why I don't have Awesome Road on top, the impressive 6 furlong winner. We did see in the Alcibiades today that Todd Pletcher's Philly Candied did come off just the single sprint race at Saratoga going 6 or 6.5 and stretched all the way out to the mile 16. It can happen, but again, don't take a short price for it to happen. That's the way this trends tell me. So I'm going to take a shot in here with Generous Tipper. But again, I'm going 4 deep in here. The 2, the 3, the 6, and then the outside runner, the 9 Locked, the way I see it in race number 9, that being the grade 1 Breeders Futurity. So we got another grade one for you coming right back in race number 10, and it wraps up the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, and it's also going to be the payout leg, race number 10, for the Pick 4, the Pick 5, and the Pick 6, right? Pick 6 is races 5 through 10. All Stakes Pick 5 is 6 through 10. All Stakes Pick 4, 7 through 10. So a lot pays off here in the 10th race, the featured grade 1 Coolmore Turf Mile, $1 million prep for the Breeders' Cup Mile. And we've got some horses with outstanding credentials. Not only do we have last year's defending champion Annapolis, but we've got the Woodbine Mile winner, Master of the Seas, for Charlie Appleby, making his second North American start.
As they come to the home stretch in the Rico Woodbine Mile, and here coming is War Bomber to join My Sea Cottage, and Lucky Score on the outside. Master of the Seas trying to gather them in. William Buick down the outside, and Shell Spider. Now I Chocolat is rallying. Master of the Seas goes up. Shell Spider deeper on the track. It is Master of the Seas exploding clear, and Master of the Seas racing away with the Rico Woodbine Mile. A most impressive display. It's Master of the Seas, a dominant win. Scores by almost 4 lengths to Shell Spite. Lucky Score third. 5 away War Bomber, then I Chocolat. And at long last, My Sea Cottage. They ran 1:33.79.
Highly impressive win at Woodbine in the Woodbine Mile for Master of the Seas. He'll try to become the first Woodbine Mile winner to come here and do so again since Wise Dan in 2012. Hard to believe it's been 11 years since Wise Dan was rocking the turf here at Keeneland. He did it for so many years. Master of the Seas, certainly the horse to beat off of that effort. There are 2 question marks, though. Second time off the plane, right? Is the travel and the wear and tear. We love horses first time off the plane. We always say that. D-Wayne off the plane back in the day. But second time off the plane, the Euro bounce, second trip sometimes can wear a horse out a little bit. So will Master of the Seas be as effective second time in the U.S.? That's a question. Secondly, it's a completely different configuration. It's still a turf mile, but Keeneland's turf mile is a 2-turn race. You're going to have a short run into the first turn. They're going to be turning a lot. At Woodbine, it was a 1-turn race, long run into the only turn of the race. And then from the top of the stretch home, as you saw in the replay, one of the longest stretch runs in all of North America is a turf mile there at Woodbine. And so Master of the Seas had the chance to just like really get into the gear and open things up. He's got a great turn of foot. He's going to have to use it a little bit differently with the shorter stretch run at Keeneland here for the turf mile, and see how he negotiates 2 bends going around the clubhouse turn and then again on the far turn. So Master of the Seas certainly could win this race, but taking a short price in the turf mile here at Keeneland in the fall has been some tough sledding over the years. Run the stats in the database. Favorites have lost this race 8 years in a row, 9 of the last 10. And in the last 7 years, every winner of this race has been 6-1 or more, with an average winner of 12-1 over the last 7 years. So do you want to take a short mile in a race that historically has been chaotic? Maybe not. Maybe you want to shop a little bit. Up to the Mark will be an alternative to the favorite. Master of the Seas, I think, goes favored. Clear second choice in the wagering will be Up to the Mark. Now, he's a Todd Pletcher trainee who in the spring was looking like America's best Breeders' Cup turf prospect. He won the Turf Classic on Derby Day at Churchill by daylight at 1 1/8. He stretched out to the 1 1/4 in the Manhattan on Belmont Day. He certainly will not be affected at all by any hubbub. The big crowd at Keeneland is not going to stir Up to the Mark. He won on Belmont Stakes Day. He won on Kentucky Derby Day. He's used to big crowds, but he hasn't been used to racing since June. It's been since that race on Belmont Day that we've seen Up to the Mark. His workout tab is light. I mean, he's really had 5-6 works since August to get back up to this grade 1 level, and now cutting back in distance. I've said this for years. In the spring, turf miles at Keeneland are a place where horses off layoffs can be very effective. Statistically, they do a great job. He'll be fit enough. I'm not worried about that. But can he be sharp enough to beat this quality of competition off that kind of layoff? That'll be the question. In the last 13 years, there hasn't been a horse in this turf mile race at Keeneland, in this stakes race, that has won off a layoff beyond August. August and September starts are all on the resume of the last 13 straight winners of this race. Nobody's had this kind of long layoff in a long time to win this race. Up to the Mark will try to buck that, being off since June. So if it's not Master of the Seas, it's not Up to the Mark. I don't think Annapolis, last year's winner, is as good as he was a year ago at this time. Who might we lean on? Well, let's take a look at the handicapper selectors box, and I'm going for an upset in here with Set Piece, winner of the Arlington Million last time at 1 1/4. He's going to trim back the distance. This is a deep closer, 4th in this race, beaten about 2 lengths. He's had a lot of runs in mile races where he makes a decent run and just gets a minor share. I didn't think he could stretch out to a 1.25 miles last time in the Arlington Million, and he ran the best race of his career that day under Florent Giroux for trainer Brad Cox. I think this is a horse who loves to win, 13 for 29 lifetime. He's lightly raced at age 7, and he's in a groove right now with only 4 starts this year. I'm hoping that he can get a pace, he can make a big rally, and set piece from off the pace, maybe with the upset for me in the Keeneland Turf Mile. This race here, again, favorites have lost 8 in a row, 9 of the last 10, and we're looking for an average winner, 12-1 or more. Let's try to get ourselves a price. I think we can get 6, 8, 10-1 on Masterpiece, because there's no doubt they're going to bet Master of the Seas hard. There's no doubt they're going to bet Up to the Mark hard. It really depends how hard they bet Annapolis in this race as to what kind of price we might be able to expect. I would go 3 deep in the multi-race wagers, though, looking at the 4, the 1, and the 5 in here as the horses. 3 deep for me in the 10th and featured race. And as we go to our key plays of the day, that's my trendy play in the Turf Mile. We're looking to upset the favorite, and we're looking for a horse to cut back in distance and make a successful rally at him here. Again, of the 17 years in our database in this Turf Mile Stakes, 17 times, 12 times the winner of this race was a horse cutting back in distance from their most previous start. So we're looking for an upset. We're looking for a horse from off the pace and a horse cutting back in distance. It sets up nicely for set piece. That's going to be our trendy play, our third key play of the day. 11th and final, we'll wrap this one up quickly as we hit the 50-minute mark on the podcast. Try to keep these around 40, 45 for you for your viewing over the course of the season. Big 11 race card here, though, and a lot to talk about. We got some reviews and race replays in there for you as well. I'm going with the first-time starter in the last race. Again, 2-year-old races at Keeneland in the fall, maiden special, sprinting like this. You're looking for first-time starters or horses from Churchill Downs. The Churchill Downs form is lacking in this race. They're almost all first-time starters. Kitty Hawk's the only one who's run a race. Kitty Hawk, you could certainly make a case for coming off 2 races at Ellis Park. He's sired by Not This Time. It's the sire Not This Time why I am on the 5 Miyagi. Not This Time, an excellent sire over the main track here at Keeneland. And when you get a first-time starter with a work over the track at Keeneland, like Miyagi has, very few horses opening week in the opening week entries have local workouts. Miyagi's got a bullet for trainer Wayne Catalano. When Catalano has a good 2-year-old and a fast first-time starter, he can win it. He gets Tyler Gaffleone, leading jockey here over the last several years, to ride. I think there's a lot to like there. The 1 Nash, another first-time starter you got to respect. Excellent pedigree. Medaglia d'Oro, Sarah Louise, that Godolphin homebred there for trainer Brad Cox should be a handful as well. Who's the King, the 9? Another one by Not This Time, first-time starter for Mark Casse. So I'm taking the Not This Time angle with Miyagi and Who's the King, and certainly respecting Nash in there. As you look across, a lot of love for Miyagi. Also some long shot plays in here potentially with the 7, first-time starter Booth for Tom, and the 3 Hammerstein, first-time starter for Brian Lynch for Scott. That's going to wrap things up. I think you want to get a little bit of coverage in that last race. We're pretty narrowed with no more than 3, 4 and all the other legs of the pick 4s and pick 5s. So spread your wings a little bit in the finale and see if you can't get home with a winner, cashing out the pick 5, the pick 6, or the late pick 4. Again, remember, there's that extra late pick 4 that goes on the final 4 races on the card, and then the pick 4 that is the final 4 stakes races on the card that ends in the 10th, and then one that ends in the 11th. That's going to wrap it up. I'm out of breath. I need a drink. It's been a fun bannering session with you as we look ahead to the 11 race card tomorrow. First post just after 1 o'clock. Be sure to check things out. Weather looks good for tomorrow. It's going to cool down overnight. Temperatures look more autumn-like tomorrow, as according to the forecasters, but just like my handicapping wasn't great on opening day, the forecast wasn't great either. They missed the rain. You know, we were supposed to have more rain than we did. That didn't happen, and I think that's probably why we ended up with a bit more of a loose and dry, cuppy track and produced those slower times and those come-from-behind rally wide horses on opening day. Let's watch the first race or 2 on the card. Let's look at the workout tab tomorrow morning and see if tomorrow's workouts aren't considerably faster than what we saw on Friday's workout tab. That would be our first indication that the track's got more moisture put into it and is going to play a little more speed friendly than it did on opening day. Hope you have a great day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out each race day, the Keeneland Today program. Scott Hazelton, my friend Kate and Bradar will take you through the races. They'll get all the long shot plays and Clocker reports and everything for you on that program. I'll be back with you on Saturday night, 8:30 Eastern. Hopefully your favorite college football team and your baseball playoff teams have a big Saturday. I know I'm rooting hard for the Phillies and the Oklahoma Sooners tomorrow as they take on Texas. So hopefully we'll all be smiling, and Kentucky and Louisville will still be undefeated as we get through tomorrow. You got to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. I know, a big game for UK fans out there. Good luck to your favorite team on the gridiron and all your plays on the racetrack. I'll see you tomorrow night, everybody.